And I think what Amy brings to this conversation is vital, because she's looking at from the outside, and in communities where the government has stepped up and said, we have some broad social plans that we would like to accomplish, and we are going to be involved, and we're going to make sure that these conversations happen in a respectful, sane, civilized fashion, and we are going to be absolutely clear that the developer needs to bring thus, and thus to the community, and the community needs to engage productively, and there will never be a large community meeting with an open mic, and there will always be a respectful situation, and we will not tolerate people calling each other terrorists. That will not be acceptable. So the government can set the table to a large degree, and be very, very clear as to what the expectations are, and that, again, as Amy pointed out, the decision-making lies ultimately with the City of New York in this case, and not with a community board. And the City of New York is not going to be swayed by, they are going to take in the input of a community board or a politician, but they are ultimately going to make the decision.
Michelle, your presentation sort of made it clear that what an advantage it is to know your the community that you're building in. I'm wondering, have you developed buildings outside of your sort of immediate catchment area, and if so, how was your approach different to making sure you got a positive result?
We've expanded our catchment area substantially over the 36 years, but we are in talks with a church that is outside of our primary catchment area about building a supportive housing project, and it's not different. Like, the same community campaign, community outreach strategy is part of what we're planning to do. The question is, because it's an as-of-right project, like the timing of that conversation, because you want it to be early enough, like you were saying, to have impact on how the project might roll out in terms of design and things like that, but you don't want it to be too early as either. So that's the challenge. But no, the approach is not any different, except that maybe we're asking more people to advise us about who might be the right people, because there's formal leadership and there's always informal leadership in communities, right? And so you kind of need to understand that and how it works.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Okay. I don't have any more questions. Yeah, All right. I might need some actual help here. Can you help me? No? Yes? No? Escape? Oh, please. Oh, there we go. And make that small. So I'm from the Supportive Housing Network, and I think you all know what the Supportive Housing Network is because you're here. So I feel good about that, and I don't have to do a whole lot of explaining who the Supportive Housing Network is. I can tell you that I have been thinking about siting long before I came to the Supportive Housing Network. I was thinking about it when I was at, can you make that big? Can you figure out how to make that big? Which button? I was thinking about it when I was at the Corporation for Supportive Housing, and we thought we had the magic bullet when we met a guy named Tim Iglesias from the Bay Area, and he had the 6 steps to supportive housing siting, and he did these trainings, and it made it seem like this is the magic bullet. So that was way back then. And then when I got to the network, I was communications director, and I thought one of the most important groups of people to communicate to were communities who were not getting it, even a little bit. So we started something that we called the Good Neighbor Initiative. Anyway. It was just PR. We were just basically trying to come up with anything we could to help our nonprofit members develop supportive housing, overcome resistance, obviate resistance, and build faster and better. Now what? Does that go forward? How do I go forward? Arrow? What arrow? Oh, that arrow, okay. Like that? No, like that? Down? Okay.
So you gotta get out of your.
I gotta get, where?
I gotta get back.
Okay. Anyway, so the first thing that we did is that we have this incredible database at the network. Did everybody knows, who here has used the network to help with them with siting? Yes, I know, Jerry. Yes, I know, Peter. Okay, so that's not really enough of you. So the supportive housing network, that doesn't come up, does it? Whoops, shit.
Are you looking for the next site?
No, I'm just trying to make it all come up. Supportive Housing Network has a database that covers every single supportive housing residence in the city of New York, actually in the state of New York. And we can spin our database and tell you in Community Board 2 in the Bronx how many open residences we have, how many are in design and construction, how many are being thought about to the extent that we know what's being thought about. And we can tell you, so when Jerry calls me and says, so I'm thinking about Community Board 2, what can you tell me? I can say that for sure. Then we started very early on, we tried to create a kind of oral history and understand from the collective community what was going on in various communities. So keeping track of what shelters opened and what community board chair said what about supportive housing, those kinds of things. And we tried to keep that in a Word document because I'm an idiot. And then we brought in this amazing woman who was the expert on siting, named Deborah Stein, and some of you got to meet her before her untimely death. And she had a science of siting, and she cites all kinds of stuff, golf courses, all kinds of unpleasant things. But she did have a science of siting, and she was able to give us a kind of we get a little stuck inside of our supportive housing bubble, and we think, oh, it's all about the tenants, oh, it's all about the special needs. It's not. It's communities hate change. And so she was able to, broaden that a little bit and give us some broad principles of what one does in the case of community opposition to obviate. And, so whoops, I did it again. All right, just show me what I do.
Just go to next.
Okay. All right. So we built, and then we started creating tools and materials and tours. So we were working with HPD at the time, and we thought the magic bullet would be to tour people around supportive housing. No. And then I went to all these borough board meetings, and I made these presentations, and I thought, okay, done. And not. No, so education wasn't totally the complete package there. So then we started to create a toolkit, which was best practices, and you all know the best practices of what to do when knowing what about a community before you go site in it, how to build community support bit by bit, how to not hold a community meeting, and all the different best practices that have been around, and try and distill those and make them easy to read and put together all the research that had been done heretofore and put that all together in a package. And that's in a toolkit and lives on our website, and it's easy for members to find and not easy for NIMBYs to find. And the other thing that we were involved in is we were involved with research. We also thought, if we could just get a study that says supportive housing doesn't hurt property values, that'll be the end of that. And so we worked with the Furman Center and gave them all this data about 123 residences that had been built in New York City, and did they damage property values? And no, they didn't. Had the study. People would walk into community board meetings and say, I have this study, and communities would go, I don't care. And we were like, what? So that was really, really, really bad news. And so then we decided the most important thing that we could really it's about project to project to project in terms of our being able to assist. So we try and offer our providers anything that will be helpful with. So we talk to the press for them. We talk to community boards. That's not usually that helpful. We help with messaging. We help with creating simple, easy to read, and good materials that help a community understand what's coming. We help set up tours. We help set up tours outside of, if a developer doesn't have any supportive housing, we'll put you in touch with a developer that does have supportive housing, so a community member can view that supportive housing and understand what supportive housing is, because really once you see it, it's very hard to confuse it with something that you wouldn't want in your community. So all of that is available. Yes, 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 that's about all we have that's available. And, you know, that's helpful, but it's only helpful to a certain extent. As Amy pointed out, we are collectively doing the good work that the city and state and federal government would like done for its most vulnerable citizens. However, we are left holding the bag, and we are not given the support. In fact, we're kind of set up to fail in some situations. So one of the reasons that I was so excited by Amy's research is that it gives you a different perspective, that this is a collective endeavor, and that it shouldn't just be developers doing the right thing. You do, Michelle did all the right things, and what Michelle didn't tell you is that one of her open mic sessions, and I bore everybody with this particular quote, but it was stunning. You've met Michelle now, and you know that she's probably a decent enough person. So this one woman stood up and said, "Who's going to come to my daughter's funeral when she's raped and murdered by one of your tenants?"
Which was also threatened at the time.
And her life was threatened. So that's not acceptable. That's not an acceptable dialogue that the city should allow to happen. We have other groups that are called terrorists. We aren't terrorists, and so what I loved about what Amy brought to the table is that we should take this opportunity with a new city administration to think about setting the table differently so that we are all collectively working towards the same things, and it's not just developers doing the right thing and trying their best to do the right thing and taking a lot of hits while they try and do the right thing. And, in the meantime, tenants are vilified, and everybody has a very, very bad time. So I encourage, now what do I do? Push this?
Trying to do.
Just next, yeah. No, see, you did it too. It's not just me, it's him too. So anyway, I encourage all of you to utilize the network, me, and call and email and tell me what's going on in your community. Tell me anything you know. If you sit on a community board, let me know that. And ask for any assistance that you think we might be useful with, because we're here to help. That's it.